I'm ready
Oh,
to go.
Jesus Christ. All right, folks, welcome back another week. This week in search. I have all your favorite dojo people in the house. What just happened here? Did we lose Terry somewhere? Uh-oh. Well, we'll have to move Patrick, I think. Patrick, we love you, but I got to make room for someone here. Just watch it from the other side. I'll talk to you on Skype after. All right, Terry.
There's Dave.
For Terry. Sorry about that, Patrick. Yeah, Patrick is a friend I haven't talked to since I was 15. Just found me on Facebook, so I told him we were doing this thing. I think he didn't quite understand what we were doing. So, Terry, I know, but I'm sure Ammon's sitting out there as well. Anyways, so let's move right along. Where are we, people? How's anyone got a story they want to start with, or shall I jump in? I don't know. Did we go right away with rank brain just before, in case Bill shows up?
What about the conversation?
Yeah, that was quite the Twitter chat this morning there, buddy. Whatever it was. That was funny, eh? Yeah, 2009, that one article I shared with you. I didn't even notice till you mentioned it. The first comment on that post was you.
Well, it's one of those things, so. So, the hashtag for
how long we've been doing it.
is going to be the week in search, right? Dave?
So, what's that? Sorry, man? Go ahead.
Hashtag for today's chat is week in search, correct?
PWI.
This week in search, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, TWIS, man. That's how we. Yeah, it's just to take out the old baseball, right? This week in baseball, so you know, that's how much inventiveness I got.
Well, I'm using both.
So yeah, no.
No problem.
Ammon's not here, so I guess I can't. You know, we can't run off to the Larry Kim story. That'd be fun, but we'll wait for Ammon.
I'll be.
I don't know if anybody else, Doc, or any of you guys can pitch in on this one. I personally didn't. Speaking of M&C, wow, man, your ears are ringing today. Anyways, I'm going to go here because I was talking to Jennifer Slag and some other people about this today. Any of you guys doing the local? Tim, you're a local guy, aren't you?
Yep, I do some, absolutely. That's kind of the core of my business.
So does anybody know what these organic rankings now affect local? Google says blah, 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 blah.
Well, it depends.
So I'm assuming that a stronger presence in organic is it now affecting your local mobile listings? Is that the deal?
It always has had some effect. I haven't seen that article though, so I can't really speak to it.
Yeah, well, they had a version of this on Search Engine Land as well. Essentially, they've, it's like when Google changes the, the normal, spam list or whatever. So the Google guidelines, I guess you could call them, were updated. So prominence is also based on information that Google has about a business from across the web, like links, articles, and directories. Google review count and score are factored into local. Okay, so essentially they're saying that anything you would do normally for your site will also affect your rankings as far as local goes.
Yeah, I think that's generally true, but also that there's a lot more that you do for local that wouldn't necessarily move the dial on or move the needle for organic.
Yeah, so the inverse isn't true. It's just
right.
Mostly organic going the local direction.
Right.
And again, so you're saying this has probably been around for a while, that it's just sort of them updating their guidelines?
Yeah, basically, if it has always been true that if you rank well for organic, it certainly is going to at least be helpful in local ranking. But there's a lot of other stuff you do for local.
Did it affect you see like Google Business? My business page shows up local searches. Sure. Okay. All right. Well, hey, again, I do corporate, so I don't do much local at all.
Yeah.
Are you talking? Well, hang on. Are we talking about? Let me make sure I'm not muted. Are we talking about local Google My Business or what? Because Google just posted. I posted it in chat. They actually posted a way to how to rank your listings in mobile on Google My Business.
Yeah, I don't even know if this is mobile per se. They're just talking about just local in general, so even local packs and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's this. This is a write-up on the actual Google link that I posted in chat.
I'm looking at it.
Of course.
I'm curious if this is a direct quote here, because the fact they have the word directories in here is kind of funny.
It is.
Directories? Since when is Google telling us to do that again?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything new in this article or in that link. You know, what they say at the end is, or the conclusion, it's relevance, distance, and prominence. And prominence has to do with, you know, how you rank in terms of, you know, a number of factors, including reviews and other things. Reviews count just a ton, especially the right reviews for local. So I don't see anything new in that, to be honest.
Nor do I.
Steve, is that a quote from the article?
That's a quote from the article.
Thank you.
Verbatim. So what they did is they basically took a quote from the Google post from my business that they put out yesterday about that.
It just looks so much longer in text.
Love. How can I not?
Where's everybody going?
Here we go.
Well, okay, Frank and Bill, you guys can probably hop in now if you want. We lost Terry somewhere. I don't know.
Your maid
All right,
is...
so yeah, I don't know. So this looks like this story is kind of one of those non-stories.
Yeah.
I had another one this week. I think it was Barry Schwartz with his usual "no news is news" thing. You know, Penguin may be rolling out, or maybe not. We don't know, but things are happening. Because I went to Webmaster World Forums, and 3 people mentioned something was happening, so something definitely must happen. You know, that's a pretty strong data set right there. 4 people on a forum said something. So.
Yeah, I read an article earlier this week that Google apparently uses spiders now.
Really? Wow, that's shocking. Yeah, that's a perfect background, by the way, Ammon.
I like that.
No,
I
I've got
noticed
the
you've
exact
been
same
using
one.
this for your stingers kind of things. So.
Yeah. Yeah, if you guys have watched the condensed versions I do of the show afterwards and the intro for the show, it's the same background. So he's literally like, you know, he's stealing the host spot now because he's actually themed for the show now.
Oh, you guys are
yeah.
in studio, that's all.
Oh, wow.
Video jacking.
Very nice. So, yeah, let's see what else. There was another, I think, local something here I had that was kind of... Someone passed this to me. I'm not even sure. When fake reviews are bad for business. I don't know if there was anyone in here, but I was somebody in the dojo rooms.
I'm trying to think of a situation where fake reviews aren't bad for business.
Well, essentially the way this story went, I'll pull it up. That the person, I guess at some point, let's see, so you decided to hire an SEO company, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so yeah, some SEO company, here, let me grab this. Some SEO company had done some work for them and put out fake reviews. Now, obviously, some of them were going to be positive because they're not going to go out and put bad ones. So, so the story goes is the business terminated the relationship with the SEO company after seeing that these reviews and is trying to have them removed. They've also reported a significant reduction in bookings, yada yada. End of the story, though, is they went to Google and said, could you take them down? Worryingly, the business support in this instance from Google replied that they would not be removing these reviews as they were not impacting the business negatively. So Google basically said, they went to Google and said, listen, these are all fake, and SEO company did them. And Google came back to them and said, well, no, they're all positive. We don't take down positive reviews. Oh, okay. Hi, we're spamming. Could you get rid of these? No, it's okay. Just leave them. Nobody cares. Yeah, that's nice.
Interesting.
That's nice.
How could that possibly hurt them, though? Really, were they? I didn't see the article. Were they clearly sort of spammy fake reviews or something?
No, they look fairly legit. Like they're right here. Oh, sorry. Well, I'll give you guys the article here in the chat.
Yeah.
But they look pretty legit, but like they're not like Indian, 3-word sentences stuff. So I don't
There was
know.
an instance in New York where the Attorney General's office set up a sting. They created a yogurt business, and then they got approached by people to do fake reviews. And the companies that were offering the fake reviews actually got busted. There was a pile of them. And this is maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years ago. So, I mean, it's depending on where you are, it's actually illegal.
Well, yeah, I mean, it looks like they're doing damage protection. They're trying to protect themselves against getting nailed down the road. But whoever they talked to at Google just said, nah, they're not negative. They're good. They're fine. Leave them. I'm not sure what the spam team would think about that. But. Okay,
Actually, they are pretty spammy, pretty obvious bad English reviews.
They look pretty bad.
Yeah.
Even if the grammar is okay, they look like somebody wrote a script for them to follow that you'd see in a bad ad for as seen on TV products or something.
Somebody would look at the names of those reviews and say, my God, don't they actually serve any real people?
Good point, yes, also.
Well, yeah, again, they said bookings had dropped, so,
Unfortunately, a lot of users, when they look at reviews, all they do is just scan how many of these are 4 and 5 star. They don't even read the damn thing.
That's a good point, Doc. I think that once people do start looking at the actual reviews, if they do, then they can actually have a negative impact if they're clearly spammy.
Massively. If your reviews look fake, it's worse than not having any. And
Yep.
I've seen genuine companies struggle where a couple of actual reviews that they didn't pay for certainly just looked so bad that it looked like they paid for them.
I wonder if you can overcome that at all by responding to the reviews. One thing that I always try to do is respond on behalf of the business for clients and say something nice in return. I wonder if that would help you overcome any sort of inferred fakiness for them. Some people can't write. Right now, I'm not even able to speak. But
well, it'd be great if you could edit them. But there's some people like what was the place? Gosh, someone told me there was it was a Google guide that told me that they wanted your log into your Google account so they could basically go in and write a review under your username for their automobile dealership.
oh wow!
I don't think so, Tim.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff that's going. However, the thing is, in terms of search terms and ranking, the more you reply back to a review, those keywords in the reply actually rank in Google search, as well as it helps your review numbers because you don't get stars until you get over 5 reviews on local. But if you've got 3 reviews and replies to each one, you can rank in the local pack without having 5 reviews.
Yeah.
Yeah, Elmer at my office, we did a lot because we have some clients that have over 1,000 locations, so we had to figure out how to do it, how to teach them to handle reviews, and then also we were asked to figure out how things rank. And I think the Google Plus post, the Improve Your Local Rank post that I posted in chat is part of those things. We found a lot more based on reviews. How old the domain age is actually is a factor in local rankings and whether you rank in the 3-pack. How quick you reply to comments. Is your phone number correct? Google tests your phone number. How is your phone number answered before 3 rings? So there's a lot of different factors in that.
Oh, that last one's interesting. Huh.
Hey, man, you want to send Bill an invite there, bud? Please and thank you. So, yeah, while I'm waiting for Bill, because actually it was something he put on Go Fish Digital I wouldn't mind getting into a little bit, so I'll wait till he gets here. But, I'm pretty sure we all know how I feel about this kind of shit. You know, I appreciate people posting news, and Barry is a hard-working dude. You know, Barry's up at 6 o'clock every morning posting crap, and I appreciate the work ethic. But you know, these kind of, I think we did this the week before or 2 weeks ago. These something's happening. We have no confirmation. We have no evidence. But hey, we think something might be happening out there. You know, this is another one. I'm like, is Google testing the Penguin 4.0 algorithm? Could it be true? Look, 3 people on a forum said something about things moving. You know, I don't know. When we used to do the regulators news show, we used to make jokes about this all the time that, you know, at any given time, I'm sure that you could find 4 people that are seeing movement. So does that, you know, is this a reportable thing? I don't know. I don't know. It drives me nuts, Frank. I tell you, man. I think Barry's the worst for it. It's always something that, you know, no news is news.
I just ignore that kind of stuff. It's just noise.
That's all it is, yeah.
He's kind of busy, and he depends on other people to send him interesting threads, and sometimes they're not very choosy about what they think is an interesting thread, and he doesn't have the time to check it as well as he should, so bit of a mix.
Yeah, I think you got room now.
I remember when Matt Cutts replying to a Twitter question actually made a blog post on various things. I was like, gee, hey, Steve Plunkett asked Matt Cutts this, and Matt Cutts said this, and that was the blog post. It was pretty cool.
Oh, Jesus, we got to make some room here.
I tell you what, I will step out and just listen in.
Well, no, I was thinking maybe Deborah is someone who's not talking. I know you generally.
I can bail out. I have other things I need to do anyhow. Nice to see you guys again.
All right. Thanks, Peter. Appreciate it. Yep. See you soon. All right.
I've emailed him.
Yeah,
the link, he's got the links.
All right, cool.
He'll jump in.
Yeah, he was writing some, I think it was a schema article over on GoFish. It was kind of interesting. So yeah, Emin, speaking of frustration, good Lord, that session next week went everywhere. Oh my God. I was ready to just kill something, like myself, you know, just bang something off my head. And, you know. So, Rank Brain, yeah, it's awesome.
Can we wait till next week? It's bad enough. I already feel like I'd never want to talk about it again. And we've got an hour on it.
I was saying earlier this week, this thing is like LSI to me. If I ever hear this word again after next Thursday, I'm going to hurt somebody. I'm going to kill somebody. I swear to God, man. If anybody fucking mentions this goddamn word to me after next Thursday, someone's going to get hurt. You know, I just can't take this anymore. It's, yeah, I've had enough of it. And the funny thing again, Emin, is it's so simple. This is so simple. Like, you know, I love what Bill's saying and everything else, and it's unfortunate, but that's why we have to do what we have to do, which is get out there. But literally all we know is to change his queries. That is it. Nothing more, you know? And the worst part is, you know, kind of like LSI raising its ugly head every couple of years. You know, it's nobody talked about this for 6 months. You know, nobody. It just I went away. No one said anything. Then all of a sudden, I guess it was, you know, the distilled article, and then obviously Larry's, and you know, it became a thing again. You know, and it's just I don't get it. You know, like well, let's introduce the world to this new thing called PageRank. Anyone ever talked about that before? Let's talk about that. Yeah, it's a new thing. Just came out.
Let's face it. When that was the only inside term they knew from Google, they talked about PageRank incessantly. Then along came, you know, Penguin and Panda, and suddenly those were the buzzwords that everyone would talk about all the time because it shows that I know about SEO. And then it was
Hummingbird. You can put Hummingbird on that list.
Exactly. Now, you know, we now have, you know, that people know 5 components of this very complex thing, and they can't do anything except drop names of one of the 5. And like I said, it's like going into a mechanic and he only knows the name for 5 parts of the car.
These here are your tires. This is the boot.
Well, I've
This is
checked
the
your tyres, your
windscreen.
windscreen wiper, your exhaust pipe, and your ashtray. It's none of those, so it must be the rear seat.
The car still won't start.
Your engine is missing. Let me adjust your brakes.
Yeah,
And
it's just
there is this tendency, you know, when any new word comes out of Google, everyone has to jump on it. Everyone's hoping that it's going to get a lot of traffic as people look it up, and that as long as they can put some content that isn't totally awful out there, they'll rank for it. Well, do you know what?
or maybe
If you've
put
got
some
that
content
mindset,
that's totally absolute there.
if you've got that mindset, your content is probably going to be bloody awful for it.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, I was watching a Google Webmaster Hangout this week, John Mueller's, and a certain somebody, and I won't use the name on air because I'm a nice guy. Well, I'm not, but anyways. Literally used the word hummingbird to try to ask a question. John, it seems that Hummingbird isn't allowing my entities to rank properly on this and that and so on and so on keywords, and I was wondering, and I could just see John went to answer and he was just like, how do I do this nicely? And I was like, oh my, who? But yeah, actually, you used the word hummingbird to preface his conversation why his entities. Like, you know, I got me some new words, entity and hummingbird. I'm going to use them in a sentence. Look, teacher, I can do it. And I was like, oh my fucking God, dude. I was like, it's just crazy.
And sadly,
there is
so much of that in our industry. You know, people are always trying to show they're riding the wave, that they're on the crest, that they're up with all the latest. And do you know what? Some of them have only got to fool people who don't know anything, and therefore they think it works.
Well, I mean, realize we didn't have Danny Sullivan. I mean, we had Danny Sullivan, but most of us didn't know who Danny Sullivan was before we had to figure out how to rank stuff in search engines. So it was kind of like we had to figure the crap out, and then we used to read what Danny did, and then eventually Barry came out. But other than that, you know, I mean, that's kind of how it works. You know, Danny evolved into Third Door, Marketing Land, Search Engine Land, Sven. So, I mean, that's kind of, and then Webmaster World, depending on if you were in that for learning SEO and Webmaster World, some people grew up in that little path. So there's a bunch of different divergent paths for SEO. You know, you got the.
Well, it's funny. We were in the Facebook group last week. We were talking about Google Guy. So yeah, I remember that those days.
Google Guides or Google Guy?
Google. Well, it was Ammon, 3-4 people, I guess. Matt did a lot of it, but apparently, yeah. In what Ammon was digging up on the other day, yeah, it was multiple Googlers. But I was really the first time Google really sort of reached out and participated with us. I guess was under the name Google Guy on Webmaster World.
It
Horne
was
back in the day.
The story goes that Matt started the account. He just decided one day to actually go in there and kind of reply. But once he had the account, he did share it with other people. You know the way that when he doesn't know the answer to something, he gets somebody that does. Well, what he does is just give the login, and okay, when you've got time, post it. So there's no knowing how many people.
And now we have multiple Googlers talking to us, so you know we've come a long way. They even put their names and faces on videos now, and you know it's a long way. Again, I really, like you said, that session you guys did a while back was one of the best ones I've seen for just a candid chat with a Googler. You know.
Yeah, and I do think that you know it is getting a lot better, the communication, but I do think that every time there is one of these stupid articles out there. Yeah, what I said about that one. The one time that I've wanted to talk about something where Andre said, I don't know, was rank brain. You know, because he'd seen so much crap out there that he just thought, I'm going to have to walk on eggshells so much to say anything that people aren't going to misquote, run off with entirely the wrong idea. And, you know, John has exactly the same trouble. Matt has exactly the same trouble. I mean, Matt, you had people trying to work out whether he was telling the truth or not based on the colour of his shirt.
Yeah, that was always, you know, we asked for transparency. Then Matt would come out and make a video or say something, and you had half the people going, I believe him, and then the other half going, no, he's lying, and then the other bunch of people actually that would sit there and say, read between the lines. There's something here, but it's not what he's saying. It's somewhere you have to you know,
what he's not.
Light and smoke and waving fucking magic wands at their screen and shit. It was like, oh. I wouldn't want to be those guys at times.
Well, and the funny thing about it was Matt was phenomenal about being very careful about his statements. And even so, you still had 116 different misinterpretations cropped up within 15 minutes, you know. And they have to miss him from that standpoint. I know I do from my side of the fence, because if you listen to him and don't read anything into what he's saying, you get some good information.
Well, you have to look at Matt as he was a corporate spokesperson. He needed that well, and he did that really well because he wasn't going to expose Google to any liability, but he wanted to explain something, but he also wasn't going to tell, because realize he was over spammed. So he wasn't going to tell you, quality. So he wasn't actually going to say, hey, this is a way to really screw Google up and make more work for me. He was never going to say that. A lot of the things he said was to prevent him from being overwhelmed with a bunch of crap and people doing the wrong stuff.
Yeah. It's one of those things, and it's not unique to Googlers. I mean, a lot of us here, I can see some old faces, and, well, these are, of course, going way back to the iSearch discussion list. You mentioned Danny. Well, to me, Deezer is just as much one of the core pioneers. We know what it was like in the forums, and we know that even in the forums, you'd post something and people would misinterpret what you were trying to get, but you could usually follow up on it. I got famous in the forums, not particularly for saying stuff that nobody else was saying, but because I took the time to explain it and to put all the wrinkles in there and to say, well, look, normally there's this, but sometimes you've got this case, and that changes it in this way, and you've got to think about this and this, and show the big picture. And I think we kind of need that level of discussion again. I was, really pleased to see Ray opening up for discussion, but love her as I do, that's still not going to happen with this idea that we've all created our own islands. I know there are a lot of SEOs out there who could have added to Ray's thread, but won't, because they will say to themselves, I don't want to lift her page rank. This is just to get, comments on her blog and get her blog activity up.
Well, for that, you just need a web ring. Yeah.
Someone mentioned the iSearch. Man, those were moderated much more heavily than anything you see today. And that's what made it quieter. It wasn't immediate. That was the problem with it, is that if you made a comment in iSearch, you had to wait for me to add it and put it in the thread and then email it to everybody twice a week, right? So
yeah,
people want to see their comments published right away today, because got all these blog softwares masquerading as guest books, and so everybody just wants to sign everybody's guest book all over the place, and that's what we have. We have a web of guest books.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I do say that editorial control is something our industry needs a lot more of. Do you know what? I think I've only ever submitted 2 articles to Danny, and he bounced both of them. He didn't publish them.
Anything intelligent he doesn't publish.
No. It told me that as long as there was any level of speculation in this, he didn't want it, and that was fine. That was
there all the time. Conjecture presented as fact is 90% of his titles.
It's a different day today. Everyone's got more user-generated content.
I think that's a big problem with the industry, is no one really states what's conjecture and what is fact anymore. It's all just kind of put out there. And these
even when you do, Terry, do you think sometimes maybe people just glaze over that as well? Like, I've written stuff, and every time I write something, it always says could be, maybe, possibly. And there's times I'll see people responding to it, elsewhere on social that literally start saying, this is that. And I'm like, no, I didn't actually say that. Go back and, read maybe a little more carefully, the maybe part, the could be part. People sometimes just gloss over that stuff and start thinking it is, what it is.
To me, it also kills innovation, because if people don't have to think or it's all presented as fact. They don't have to think about it. It's all actionable right away.
There's a big difference. There's a big difference between what we could prove 10 years ago, you know, as far as you do something and you could see that there was a result now because of the, you know, the intricacies of the algorithm and all the things that go into it now versus 10 years ago when it was like, okay, increase the number of keywords or play with the title, or, you know, there was an immediate reaction, and you could say with a fair amount of conviction that if you, you know, did this to the title or you did this to the, you know, the number of keywords or emphasis tags, you've got an immediate result. Nowadays, it's a hell of a lot. The reason why there's so much conjecture is because there's so much more behind the covers that we can't directly test. And if we do, we can't conclude that it's specifically to one action because there may be other things we're not aware of.
No problem.
Yeah, but along Terry's lines, you could write stuff. You could write stuff like, "This is what worked for me in this particular query space with this particular client." You know, nobody would. I think what Terry's saying is nobody writes like that. You know, they make these definitive statements that here's how you do this and that, as opposed to saying, hey, you know, in my limited, you know, even Terry and I did a very in-depth personalized search thing back when that got to, what, 2008 or 9 or something, Terry? Remember we did all that stuff? And even then we had like 20, 30, 40 different people all querying from different parts of the states and everything else. But even then we're just saying, okay, this is a limited data set. You know, we don't go and write something based upon the research we did saying that, you know, boom, here's what this is. No, we still prefaced everything with, you know, here's the limited data set, and, you know, here's just some interesting tidbits we found. I don't think not enough people write that way anymore, you know, or ever did.
No, I agree. But, you know, the fact that there's far more confounding variables nowadays than what there used to be, you know, that's why we need to qualify. Whereas in the past we could be a little bit more certain because there were less things in the mix.
That we knew of. But even then, I think people were just tending to simplify an awful lot of stuff. I mean, some of the articles on PageRank in 2002, 2003 were absolute nonsense. It didn't prove what it thought, you know, what people thought they were proving. When themes were first being talked about and semantic analysis back in 2004, 2005. I mean, a lot of it was rubbish. LSI.
Well, you know, I mean, we've all seen
just had to do that.
Of people that confuse correlation and causation, and now you've got almost as many out there that can't even determine the difference between correlation and pure coincidence. You know. So
speaking of LSI, whatever happened to Orion?
Hey! Now don't you do that, man. Okay. Now, Orion was nothing to do with LSI, and LSI refused to go there. Someone brought this stupid thing up to me again the other day because, oh, by the way, the reason this came up, Ammon, was there was a fellow in, I think, the group on Google Plus, Semantic Group. He had mentioned LSI, and then he mentioned some rank brain stuff, and I kind of went in and stomped on him. And he came back and said, really sorry, I got my facts wrong, thank you for the links, so on and so on. It was an anti-Larry story, so I thought I'd share that with you. So then I went public and said, I really love this guy. He, you know what I mean, thank you very much for at least, you know, taking your words back. Yeah, anyways, no, LSI, what? Yeah. So I was very pleased to see that. Anyways, no, the funny thing is, I literally could show you a link of the press release where all that started. Because at the time Google bought this company, they did LSI stuff, and they had this technology Google bought them for called AdWords. Yeah, neat, huh? Ever heard of it? Funny enough, though, since then, 2003 or whatever, organic guys have latched onto that LSI word and keep using it. Orion was something different. Orialon, which is Orion, you know, he had some patents in the Australian database and stuff, and I looked at some of his papers. Now, I guess that's probably, I don't know, 2004 they picked him up. I'm not sure. And sadly, Bill's not here, but I remember Bill telling me as well that all the patents disappeared after Google picked this guy up. What that was is something we all see and know too well today called no-click searching. And it was funny because I remember writing about this the last time I mentioned it, brought it up in writing at least, was maybe 2007. And funny enough, whatever happened to Orion was the name of my post, so I'm not sure if you're trolling me there, Frank. But it was no-click searching, which is essentially something we all see today, with knowledge graph cards, with SERPs that if you're like looking for a menu and it shows you the steps of that recipe. You know, funny enough, we have no-click searching today, but back at the time, SEOs were like, no, that's it. I'm going to start optimizing for Bing if they ever do that, and da-da-da, and all the threats and all the crap coming from the SEOs out there was about how, you know, if that starts happening, I'm out of here. Meanwhile, we live in a world today where we accept it, that it's normal. We see Google doing this kind of stuff all the time, and, you know, apparently none of us left. So, but yeah, Orion was actually that no-click searching kind of thing that we see all the time now. So there you go.
Yeah.
There's my 2 cents on LSI and Orion.
It's been interesting recently digging into more of what Google could use, can't use on click-through. And, you know, a lot of it is about the quality of data and the amount of processing it takes to get there. You know, Google has business thresholds. There are things that they can do that they don't do. And, you know, one of those we talked about the other day, optical character recognition in images. Do they run it across all images? No. Why not? Because more often than not, it's a non-clue. You know, I'm taking a picture of me outside a restaurant. The only point of this photo is, oh, look, I'm at a restaurant. The fact that there's a sign in the background and a bus going past and both have writing on doesn't add anything to the quality of the image. There is no clue in there, and Google would have been, you know, wasting time processing the characters on thousands of images where it doesn't add anything. It's just not a high enough quality signal to be worth the processing, and it's a lot of processing to do OCR on every single image uploaded in every second of the day.
Dave Davies, we got a Steve for you on it now. I don't know if you're watching the Q&A there, Terry, but some character named Dave Davies is commenting that it's nice to see how you can decode everything.
Oh, me?
Yeah. So yeah, Dave's musing in the Q&A about our flashback here, and I like Frank's too. Is Steve channeling John Goodman today? Very good, Frank. Anyways, yeah, Dave, if you click the link, I'm sure you can join us. I'm so used to podcasts, I don't know. I did like, I keep, you know, I'll go back to Rank Brain one more time. I did like, there was 2 things I enjoyed this week. One was obviously Andrew Goodman's post. I'll get that one. And the second one comes from our very own Emin Johns with Faulty Towers. Enjoy that as well. That was pretty fun. Yeah.
Yeah, anytime you use Faulty Towers is a plus.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong, right?
No.
Yeah. Well, Justin Parks was in one of the dojo rooms this morning, and I was doing the Father Ted stuff. Drink. The young ones, they should be redone. I think the young ones is just such a classic show as well.
Faulty Towers, though, is one of those ones that I absolutely love because, you know, you get lots of people pumping out quantity. Faulty Towers, there were only 13 episodes ever made.
Yeah.
And the life of that has been endless. The fame of that is everywhere. And you know what? You know, quality counts. They are all so good, and the minute they didn't think they could write as good or better going forward, they stopped.
Yeah, I've had those for the longest time on VHS tapes, and yeah, it was. And even now, every now and again, I'll go, okay, I need to watch an episode and break out the old player.
For the internet-aged people in the audience, VHS was this form of video.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dave's kind of new.
It's something, you know, I was saying earlier about user-generated content, the quality's gone downhill. The one thing that bugs me more, and it came up in that Larry Kim thread, ghostwriting, which isn't ghostwriting. Ghostwriting is when you hire somebody who is as good, if not better, a writer, to spend the time on it that you can't. That's ghostwriting. Quality first. It's always about the brand quality.
Yeah, and that person doesn't put their name up with it.
Exactly. It's for you to shine through their skill.
Yeah.
When it's just about getting somebody to shit out a load of words on a page so that you can keep up with your schedule, because you must have content going out every week, because some moron once thought that was a good thing. Some moron was so bad at SEO that the freshness boost was the only effect they were getting, so having constant fresh content seemed like a good tactic, because they had no longevity. They don't understand the 40 hours thing. No,
Yep.
It drives me
But, yeah,
nuts.
that's it. Like evergreen content will keep getting, you know, inbound. We'll keep getting traffic. We'll maintain those. And yeah, I'm the same. I believe more in evergreen content than blog posts. You know, when I talk to clients about, you know, the difference between the evergreen, which could be FAQs, could be how-tos, could be whatever, that section of the site compared to the blog, I'm kind of like that. I educate them in the same way, that the evergreen is going to be far more lasting than the blog stuff. You know, the blog stuff we can rip off and you know, op-ed pieces and things of that nature. But if you know have you want any kind of really long-term benefit, you got to start taking evergreen stuff, really solid content, and update that stuff. You know, I had a dojo member this week watching a video with Bill and I from last year, and we did in the dojo, and he was like, "What were those patents you're talking about?" I was like, "Are you kidding me? I have no idea." So I finally figured it out. It actually was Tony. Anyways, I went back and figured out what it was, and it was the set of patents back in the day on the historical ranking factors. And, you know, that covered everything from web spam to, you know, content to everything else. But one of the things in there, you know, and again, this is 12, 14 years ago, and then you have to add a couple of years for research and patenting the damn thing. It's a long time ago, folks, so don't go running out, you know. But the point is even in there, evergreen type content, if it was updated, had more value to Google. Meaning, you know, if you're writing about the history of the Stanley Cup, you better be adding each year into the post, you know, that evergreen piece as it goes along. And Google, in some temporal spaces, will reward you for updating content. So blog posts aren't like that. You can't, you know, just update a blog post and say, hey, yeah, we pulled this one out from 2 years ago. But evergreen content is something you can do that with, right? So.
Yeah. But also, there are times when Google is looking for fresh content, query demands freshness, and there's times when it really wants the old stuff. You know, if I do history of the Ryder Cup, it's probably going to want one of the older documents out there, because there's more chance that, you know, it got its facts right. That the myths have come along in the meantime, as they do.
Oh.
What is this? Did I mention someone's name and they show up? Hello, Tony.
There used to be a book, the Ring Magazine used to put out like an almanac of every fight. And they used to be able to sell versions every year because of all the fights that were added to the records. But the value of the book was the historical stuff. I mean, the book just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, that's what, yeah, you've got to update, and I can understand that being part of what is expected, but too few of the times are there all that people doing the necessary stuff to create the historical reference, because that has far more value, where you can see, whether it's what we do or any other industry, where you can see the perspective of it all, as opposed to just trying to be, here's what the trendy stuff is, here's what happened last week, as opposed to, this is the history of what's going on.
Yeah.
In SEO, if you're doing what's going on right now, you're behind.
Yeah.
I've said that for a long time.
Well, you know, it's funny, Terry. Last night, Doc and I and some of the members were hanging out just on Skype in a private call, and we were talking about that whole future-proofing, that whole, you know, staying ahead of the curve. And I was saying to those guys that it becomes even more important if you work with large corporations, because by the time, you know, if you're not ahead of the game, you're done, because it takes you 6 months to get anything through the system. You know what I mean? By the time it gets through, you know, we joked earlier about that one large corp, we try to get like title tags changed and stuff like that. By the time it gets through the red tape, something that would take you and I 2 minutes on our website takes 3 months with these people. But literally, yeah, and if it's mobile strategy or whatever, you literally need to be thinking, where is the future of search 6 months from now in these corporate situations? Because by the time you get anything done, it's going to be 6 months, like on a strategic level, right? So
just think about a pharmaceutical company. I was doing some PPC for one of them, literally 6 month turnaround.
Well, but I was talking about reviews and how you could edit or reply to reviews on Google Plus, and that was 5 years ago. I was about 3 years too early in terms of Google actually rolling it out for a client that had over 1,000 locations. So I can't say which one, but you understand what I'm talking about. The fact being is I was way too far ahead, and so what I've learned is I can see where things are going, but I think it's harder to strategically plan how to be able to flex for that as opposed to putting your ass out there and saying, hey, we do it this way, and then you sit around and they have, you burn through $25,000 worth of budget, and Google still hasn't moved yet. So I think that's the one cautionary note I would give is being too far ahead. Sometimes you just got to say, well, it could be this, instead of just saying, hey, we should do this now because Google's coming and it's going to do this.
Example, when Google bought YouTube, I went to a client immediately that day and told them to start getting ready to do video. When Google actually...
Pajamas? I'm taking a guess here in the past. Pajamas?
No, that was the music supply. They now get most of their traffic from video and have for years. I think over 30 million downloads since I started the account.
Yeah, there was a guy I met at one of the London SCSs who started doing how-to videos in gardening, and that had to have been 2006. And the guy, just rocketed through. The next year, he owned everything.
Think about it, Frank. There's no better way to sell over the internet, show a musical instrument. The players could actually, we brought in professional players to do the videos. They could hear like all different styles of music being played and see how the guitar hangs on the players, that sort of thing. It was unreal. And then we put the video on the actual product page. Man, drives a lot of traffic for them.
Eamon, you're saying to the side there about, that you've had it take a year and still not get approved. And that's the thing, I think I say this a lot to people that, dojo members and this and that they start going, well, the little guy doesn't stand a chance anymore, this and that. And I say, well, that's not true, because if you're nimble, if you can be quick, and I always say the art of war as well, you don't go after head term against Ford. Remember that, Terry? Yeah, a certain big used car newspaper website, etc. We were in a meeting one day, and they said to Terry and I, we'd like to rank #1 for used Ford. We didn't really think much of it, but we went and took a look at the SERP. Imagine that. Ford ranked #1 for that. It was like, are these people serious? Like, you're not going to get that. So you got to attack from the sides. But anyways, small businesses can be nimble. You can be nimble, whereas, like Eamon's saying here in our side chat, that, big, large corporations sometimes can take 6 months, 4 months, and then, like Eamon's saying, not even do it out, not follow the advice given. So I don't know, Eamon. I think that's the one thing I always tend to lean on with the people that think they don't stand a chance, is that you've got speed on your side. You've got the ability to be nimble,
Yeah, and Tony just said in the sideline something that plays to that as well. What happens if during that time some change to the SERP happens and undoes, it reverses all your advice. Well, as I said to Tony, you don't do that, or you're going to lose the contract. This is why corporate SEO is very conservative most of the time. Every now and again they'll ask to take a risk, but most of the time you don't take risks with anything that might change. Anything that has any likelihood of changing, you don't touch. You play to the long game.
Well, if you did no follow tags on a corporate website, you're an idiot. You know what I mean? You had to take them down. You at 6 months later, and you had to bill them twice, and that really pissed him off, and you probably lost a client. I never did anything like that, but a lot of the times with like high-level corporate, because I'm working on stuff that is, these are Fortune 50, Fortune 5, and so what we're doing is a lot of times the client screws something up, and you just redo it. That's all you can do, all of a sudden our Google Webmaster Tools tag is gone because somebody updated the front page and blew it away. Well, you've got reports due at the end of the month, so you better make sure you get a notification if that page changed. Then you end up sending page monitoring to make sure that when the tag is removed, you get an email. So that's the kind of thing with corporate client is you got to babysit to make sure that the IT department, who doesn't necessarily always have access to SEO, because the SEO sometimes is in the marketing suite, and you're passing that through the marketing suite to the technical people, that the technical people are monitored, because if they screw your stuff up, it's your head on the block, not the IT people.
Dave Davies, welcome to the show and the family and the whatever. Good to see you, man.
Well, nice to be here.
Jump on in. Yeah, I know it's your first time, so you have to get used to it. You got to kind of run someone over with a truck around here to get a word in. So, anyways, are you doing corporate? Are you working corporate or SMBs, or what's your take on the whole?
We have a lot of smaller ones too, and a couple larger ones. I think a lot of the points that are being made here are entirely right. Where you do have the advantage as a smaller company to go in, be a little more nimble, react a little faster. On the other side, and to be fair to some of them, their budgets tend to be smaller. Their risk factors tend to be, they have to be a little more protectorate. So, yeah, as you're giving this advice, it's great advice. Yes, they can be nimble, but they don't have the resources to put in. So if you have a couple misfires out of the gate, well, there's their budget.
Yeah.
Now they can't afford to do that next thing. So, but being the nimble is, the first thing I was thinking of, or one of the things I was thinking of is, chasing after the author. And yeah, if you went in there early with the author tags, great. If you were, a little delayed by, a year or so, all of a sudden it was disappearing, and you were, sort of hooped. So yeah,
but taking stuff like AMP, that's something you could quickly implement. You know what I mean? Even changing title tags, or let's say recommendations from an audit. I mean, my SMB clients can get that stuff pretty much sorted out within a 10-day period. Whereas, Terry, I literally a major insurance company in the UK, and I'm sure that Ammon could probably guess who it is. A lot of our friends, Ben McCabe, worked there, and so on and so on. But the funny story is, so one SEO friend of ours, called me in to do an audit. Okay. Then 2 years later, he left the company, but another person that we all knew took over his spot. So he says to him, he says, well, who should I get a hold of to get the ball rolling? Oh, give Dave a call. So he gives me, gets a hold of me, and I'm like, oh, I just did an audit for you guys a couple years ago. He's like, yeah, well, we want another one. Okay, fine. I'll take your money. And then I went and, I did the audit. And then I went back and I purposely didn't look at the one I had done before. I went back and looked at the one I had done 2 years earlier, and literally I could have almost just cut and pasted and sent that off. Like, so little had changed from, okay, here, give me, a couple $1,000 and then do nothing with the information. It was like, okay. So I don't know, corporate gets like that. Like AMP, we're talking, I guess it was last week, and Steve Garanser was in here. And literally, he's got a corporate client of a fairly large site that just finished relaunching back in January. Now, they're not going to redevelop the site just for AMPs. So, whereas, again, a smaller, technical stuff like that, I think smaller businesses can actually implement quicker, right? So,
yeah, I think Ammon actually just made a really good point there, like a great example talking about schema. And I just sent some schema over to a smaller client. They're just a couple million, and their tech team had it. It was, it was up within 24 hours, deployed because they had access to all of their entire database. A couple little tweaks needed to be done after. That was done within 24 hours of that, right? I sent over the idea, I sent over the schema I wanted on there. Within 48 hours, it was validating and online. Whereas, yeah, you try and get that through a major publisher or something like that, and it's like pulling teeth, and yeah, they're going to have a dozen meetings trying to figure out what kind and what, and sending questions back, and missing the boat entirely.
Well,
yeah, and I think someone made the point shortly ago that even the corp stuff, you can't just jump on stuff. You know, like how many things we see from Google that within 6 months they pulled it or changed it or ripped it or its value changed. You know, I've had that. Like even when AMP started coming around last year, I had corporate clients asking me, you know, well, should we be worried about this? Should you know? And I invariably a lot of times have to say we have to just sit and watch and see what happens with it.
Well, it's kind of like with schema. For example, I figured out that a schema didn't exist, and a major, how can I say, a major manufacturer of something that is a very big company has an opportunity to basically create schema for the world that doesn't exist on something. And for them, it's a PR play, it's a branding play, it's their part in the universe play about creating schema for their industry and the world. So the big hang-up now is I've already written 3 POVs, we've had 27 meetings, but at this point it now comes down to legal. What are the implications if the client creates schema for the world? Are they responsible if something goes wrong? And so that's really what hasn't really ever occurred, because I think we're creating a standard, and I don't think legal understands how to deal with schema. You know what I mean? If you're a big, huge Fortune 50 company and you create schema for your industry that's huge, are you responsible for anything or liable for any issues that come from the use of that schema? Or anything that you got wrong in it?
Yeah, and to a large extent, it's not just the size of the company. The size of the company magnifies it, because when a company gets to a certain size, it starts to get departmentalized. And when it gets departmentalized, it means I want to get a change through. First, it goes to IT to see if they can do it, if it's feasible. It goes to marketing to decide whether there is a good reason for them to want to do it, or some other department to champion it. It then goes through financing to see if you've got it in the budget to allocate it. It then goes to legal to see if there's any implications that the company needs to be aware of. And in between all of these different departments meeting, and occasionally meeting together, but mostly meeting on their own to discuss it, yeah, it takes months. But I would say that to an extent, any company is also influenced by age and success. The company that's got a big budget, look, I've got changes that I predict are going to add 5 million to your bottom line in the next 8 months. Well, to a lot of companies, that's a big deal. To some companies, 5 million in 6 months is actually chump change, and therefore they are going to look at that in a whole different context. That even a growth of 1% is massive for them, but it's only 1%. They are still going to consider the other 99% really carefully.
Exactly. I mean, it's one of those things of the whole process you said, where it goes from IT to marketing to legal to back, and now that it's gotten all approved, does IT have time to do it, and when can they get to it? So totally agree with what you're saying, Amo. I'll be right back. I got to go to a SEMPO committee meeting thing.
I got a question. Is anyone using TF IDF?
Do you mean us or search engines, or who?
Yeah. Any one of the group is they playing with it? I've just started, and if anyone's got any good links for a little advanced reading on it. Which is basically term frequency, inverse document frequency.
I must admit, both Bill and Dave have covered it in the past, and I tend to find that the old papers are as good as anything else. There hasn't been anything massive new that I've seen that changes any of that. It's one of those foundational things. Did you see the second Google Q&A where Andre was explaining about what core means? It means once they stop thinking about it and tweaking it and have almost forgotten how it works, that's when it's core. Well, TF-IDF is kind of like that. That's another that would actually look to the older papers, because it hasn't changed much.
Okay. Yeah, it's between doing the client work and then trying to read up on different things has become a hell of a lot harder when I'm as a consultant versus working for within a company where you can go, okay, I've got to commit to 2 hours a day of reading just to keep up with what's going on.
Yeah, you still got the same basic precept for anyone that isn't familiar with term frequency versus inverse document frequency. Basically, it's saying that words that don't appear very often are probably more significant to what the topic is about. The rarer the word, the more weight it probably has. And if the word is used quite a lot on this document, but not much across the web as a whole, then there's a very good chance it's a strong signal of what that document is about.
There you go.
That's it.
Well said.
Good explanation.
I just noticed Edward's here. Hello, Edward. Good to see you.
Good afternoon to you.
Good. Still doing the same stuff?
Yeah, still doing the same stuff. Working with WhiteSpark, serving a lot of clients, having a lot of fun.
For those who don't know Edward, he used to work with he's a photographer with the Google 360 and all that kind of stuff, and we've had really neat stuff. And I still keep, every time I see a patent from Google about, how to geolocate within a mall or how to geolocate within a building, and I always think man. I'm always like, oh yeah, this stuff's neat. Yeah, it's fascinating stuff, that's for sure. But yeah, he's the guy, Emin, that would go into like restaurants and do the 360 pictures that they stitch together that Google does.
Yeah. Yep.
I think it was even you, Edward, that was telling us about those little Wi-Fi's that stores can put on, the front desk, and it can actually locate various products within a store and stuff like that.
Yes, those iBeacons. They are already used well together with other technologies here in the Netherlands. We have a huge chain of electronics shops, and they use even Wi-Fi to locate people on where they are, on what location in the store, and they're able to combine nowadays to the data that you have researched on your mobile phone while being at home on your Wi-Fi or over 4G or whatever. And then when you enter the store, they can even change the prices on the electronic price tags while you're like 2, 3, 4 feet away from this particular item you have been researching online, and they can either lower the price or increase the price depending on what they think would be the best way for them to do their business.
That is crazy. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. What they do nowadays,
criminal.
They block so mobile data. The moment you enter the store, it's allowed here in the Netherlands, and they offer you free Wi-Fi, of course, because then they know your MAC address and they know everything about you. They can track and trace you throughout the whole store. They know where you've been slowed down while walking through the store, looking at particular items. Well, they don't know the compass direction you're looking at, but for the rest, they know where you've been, where you've paused.
Right, but if you stop to browse in a certain area, it recognizes that you've stopped near a certain set of products, and it cues it to say, "Hey, over here," kind of deal, or.
Yeah, and it does allow for then algorithms to adjust the prices of things on the fly. If something's selling well, maybe you slowly creep the price up, and you can check in real time whether this is slowing down sales or whether you've still got leeway to go. And
they have these electronic price tags that they can change from a distance. Indeed, that's correct. Yeah.
Yep. It's going to be a big change. You remember the idea that lots of big mall stores and department stores would have restaurants in them that were kind of really appealing. Well, the new generation is going to be the internet cafe, and the internet cafe is going to be front and center of the shop. Get people coming in, low price coffee, because what you're after is basically getting their Wi-Fi details, cookieing them, so that whenever they interact with you in future, you've got that data.
Yep.
Yeehaw. That's a whole new game.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing stuff, Frank. Like I said, after I met Edward a couple of years back, anytime one of those patents pops up now, I'm like, okay, we're going this way. It's fascinating, yeah. Well, the whole Google Assistant approach, I think, is interesting. Now, again, if you haven't watched that, the Future of Search keynote from SMX recently, it's worth a watch because, it just gives you this idea, and I've talked to some Googlers privately about this, and I think it's something they're pushing across to every department, this idea of the Google Assistant. You know what I mean? Again, when you querying your mobile phone, to them a query doesn't necessarily mean, you know, the web database. You could be querying your contacts. You could be querying your calendar. You could be querying a query to Google now as an assistant is something you say into your smartphone, and it decides from there what is the best route to take you. Is it an app that you want, or, you know, is it something else? It's not always just take you to the web kind of thing. So
yeah,
I think that's a very important distinction moving forward.
I'm surprised at the virtual assistants, you know, because they've been talking about that for, you know, 5+ years. That, you know, the millennials haven't jumped on it a lot sooner, because, you know, that ability for you and I to determine where and when would be work best for both of us.
Yeah, but I also get the sense maybe they're not confident in it. You know what I mean, Frank? Because they haven't done a great job of promoting these things. You know, I think it's still gestation period for this. I don't think it's something that Google's really hammering on, because, you know, I watched that keynote and started going to my daughter and my wife and showing them new things they could do with their phone, and they were like, "Oh my God, I had no idea it could do this." You know what I mean? So maybe Google's just not, you know, confident in it yet. I'm not sure.
Have they said it boosts ranks? If they have, it's going to be implemented.
So now,
again, it's already there in the operating system. So
I put a link in a little earlier about Brave, the new browser that, you know, there was an article in the Financial Times in the last day or so about how it's a browser that will work at like an ad blocker but drop other ads in, and then they're giving money back to the publisher, and they're actually giving the user of the browser a percentage of the money. You know, it's this weird sort of thing. And I'm thinking, why the hell isn't there, for major publications that are bitching about the ad blocking, them recognizing that there's an ad blocker and saying, well, you've got to disallow that to be able to get access, just like they're, you know, how they limit you to only reading so many for free without subscribing.
Yeah, you think must think about something like that.
A lot of sites are already blocking ad blockers, so they're blocking people using ad blockers.
Okay, yeah, I figured it'd have to be there somewhere, and say like, but there's got to be an ability for major publications like the New York Times or whatever that, you know, needs the money, the revenue from the ad, saying like, if you want to read this, you've got to unblock the ad blocker.
Well,
yeah,
there is. The thing is, and I tweeted this, I don't block ads. I block ad networks. If you select your ads and blend them into your content, it's not going to be blocked. You know, it's when you just outsource it. Oh, right, we're going to have this company provide all our ads. Yeah, it gets blocked. Why? Because, you know, it's a bulk thing. They're not targeted. They're not doing a very good job. It's just getting in the way. And, yeah, that's what I block. Because I don't want these ad companies tracking me in addition to all the other people that are trying to track me. You know, don't need it.
Yeah, see, I don't care who tracks me. Yeah, it's like, good luck, mate.
Only the police.
Well, they're doing that as well.
Yeah,
I don't have a bank account, so I have not much to lose. So I'm like,
just bear in mind, Frank, for all you know, some of those electronic tags are already putting up the prices. You know, 10% when they see you coming, because they know enough about you to.
I was going to say, yeah, it's the old phrase, they saw you coming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, go whatever.
But this is it. How long until those shops start passing that data? How long until we get, just like we got the credit score companies, how long until we've got the how much will this person pay companies who are passing that data between various and guess who's already got the data on most people and what they're looking at and what they're clicking on? It's the ad companies, them and Google.
I don't know, it could be Google maybe.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting evolution. Again, it goes back to this future-proofing and everything we talked about earlier. That I really think that, you know, instead of crap like Rank Brain, there's so many other things I think, you know, are far more important. That, you know, when I sit around with the guys and our Skype chats at night and we're talking and stuff, that I'm talking about. You know, I mean, I could care less about Rank Brain. Obviously, I want to kill someone right now, but there's just so many other potential evolutions and where this is going that you don't hear about talked about. You know, like the stuff that Edward talks about is mind-blowing to me, and the average SEO has no clue. You know, they're just like mindless. You know, stuff with you know, if you don't see, you know, I was talking, I think it was Alan Blaywace on private conversation the other day, and if you don't see where any of this is going, then you might want to rethink it, because this is, you know, I remember talking to Matt a couple of years ago and about the mobile stuff. And, you know, back, remember, and everyone remembers when it was going to be the year of mobile. I think it was like 2007. Then it was year of mobile, 2008. Year of this one. You know, we heard that for so many years. I went, oh, fuck, shut up. And eventually, it did come eventually. But, you know.
Yeah, but when it came, they all called it Mobile-geddon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, why? Because we don't know what this is. It scares me. So we'll just, hopefully, we scream loud enough, it'll go away. No, I think what it was, Alan used the analogy of the ostrich with head in the sand. You know. Now, I wish you could draw editorial cartoons, because I'd have one, and the SEO would have his head stuck. It would be an ostrich with his head stuck in the sand. But you know, it's this evolution of where things are going that becomes important. And people are like, well, you know, how do I adapt for this and that? Well, make sure that your doctor, make sure he gets added to, you know, his clients, his customers, his clients, whatever, gets into their Gmails. Stuff like mailing lists take on a whole new world, because once you get into someone's contacts on Gmail, everything changes. You know what I mean? Like my wife, you know, my wife picks up her phone and goes the other day and goes, we're playing with stuff. She's like, okay, Google, post to David's Google Plus wall. And she didn't have to say David Harry, nothing else. It found me, boom, right away, went to my page and this and that, because it sees who she talks to the most in email, which David is the most prominent. You know, and again, back to Matt. I was talking to Matt back, you know, in those days, and he said, you know, and he made a very good point, that there's a lot of countries that are completely by-stepping the infrastructure point, meaning, you know, as Matt was telling me, that, you know, you look at, especially third world countries, you know, they don't have internet infrastructure. You know, they're not, at this point, late in the game especially, going to start putting up DSL on all this other stuff. Everyone's just gone right from nothing to mobile, because mobile is how they access the internet. And then Google really wants to be in that place. They do. Like, I know they've got Google Fiber now and stuff like that, but they really, even back 4 or 5 years ago, talking to Googlers, had this, you know, company-wide belief that mobile's where they want to be. And the fact even the Google Raters guide now is all done on smartphones. You know, they don't even have the Google Raters even bother with the desktop anymore. You know, and if these kind of hints aren't enough for you, I don't know what is.
Yeah, and it's not even just that the third world country is definitely going this way. In the first world, you know, there's more and more busy execs who rely on their mobile because it's always there. They haven't got time to set up a laptop. They haven't always got the, you know, the battery power and the rest of it. Was your phone is one device that you're always making sure has got juice, is by you, is available because you need it. So I do think that, you know, we are getting to the point where the mobile is getting more and more capable anyway. The processing power of a mobile is phenomenal. I've been watching some of the games that my stepson is playing, and I'm looking at the graphics on those and saying, hang on, that's better than the computers had a few years ago. You know, the capabilities of a smartphone are so good now. And the games industry was looking at this a couple of years ago. That's why they were slowing down on the console thing, because they don't think, you know, for a while they were all trying to get this media center in your home. They all wanted this one box that would kind of connect all your devices.
Yeah, it was the battle for the living room, it was called at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? The mobile phone's going to win it, and everybody knows it.
Well, again, yeah, you know, my daughter comes downstairs with the Xbox on, my son playing, or he's on. It'll ask, "Would you like to sync up?" And she literally, if she's on YouTube, it'll sync up, and boom, up on my TV comes the video she had on her phone, and it does that. Again, smartphone, it does it on its own. It asks, "Hey, would you like to pump this out through your TV right now?" Okay, why not? And yeah, it's impressive. Like even the voice stuff, the conversational. Like we were playing with it last night a whole bunch, and I've been playing with this again ever since I watched that video. I'm just all about messing with the smartphones. But you know, you could probably do one if you got an Android, folks. You could try this one later. But Tanya, my wife, she sitting at the pub and she goes, "Oh, okay, Google, what is rank brain?" And it came back with Frank brain. And she said, "No, not Frank." That's all she said. She said, "No, not Frank." And it corrected the SERP and spit back rank brain. That's all she had to do was say, no, not Frank. And boom, Frank Brain came back. And I was like, Jesus. I got to be paying more attention to this. You know, this conversational search stuff is going to be, you know, you got to be on it, or at least understand where it's going, you know.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, you know, the mobile device is you already see mobiles used for so much. You watch some of these radio control enthusiasts who, you know, the mobile phone is connecting to the helicopter or hovercraft or whatever it is, and it turns into the controller for them, and it gives them a camera view. You know, if it's doing that, then doing the ordinary media streaming around your house is nothing.
Yeah, that's we're no longer going to be optimizing for search results as we know them as the 10 blue links or whatever the page layout is. It's going to be optimizing, like mentioned earlier, pricing on a electronic tag or to a mobile device to, that has the optimum potential client to send something out from your beacon in your store. Now that's where that goes, because no one's going to be looking as much as they do. The need for that part of us, helping them rank, we need to give information on how they optimize other search elements.
Again, being in someone's contacts becomes more important. There's so many, even apps. You know what I mean? Having an app is going to be key as well. It already is, to be honest. But again, your Android, you could say, same thing. Like you can pick out an Android and go, okay, Google, take me to my Facebook, and boom, the Facebook app comes up, not the web page, nothing else. No, literally on your Android, up pops the Facebook app, and away you go. So again, you're querying the Android system, but it's not a traditional query in the sense of how we think, as far as the 10 blue links and everything. You're querying your phone, and it's going to figure out which application or which how they can best answer that query. Could be an app, it could be the web, it could be a whole bunch of maps, it could be a bunch of different things. So
yeah, and
I think the traditional sense of what a query is changing.
The hottest battle in tech right now is over AI, and the battle is head to head between Apple and Google and Facebook and several other players, and yeah, it is because they want those assistants to be there and to be working better.
If we pass the hat around, maybe we can buy Yahoo this afternoon. For what it's worth.
I'm wondering if the Chinese are going to end up buying it back, because after all, Yahoo, its income comes from two places. It shares in Google and it shares in So I have wondered whether is China going to actually just buy it out? I don't think they see the value.
No, exactly. I mean, and ultimately, being China, they could close the doors completely and say, like, hey, bad luck, we nationalize it. And, whatever value you've got over there in America, see ya.
Yep.
Yeah. The only thing out of the portal level that would be of interest to anyone for significant money would be their fantasy sports stuff. They could get a chunk of change from, especially if the rulings are going more in the favor now of FanDuel and DraftKings. One of those guys coming in and offering a big chunk of money. If they can afford to pay $100 million in fines to New York, they must have billions of dollars to be able to buy Yahoo Fantasy Sports, because that's a huge potential player list.
Look at Terry. He just ran over there. The Cheshire Cat's in the house here.
Not very happy.
Now, Kristin, I don't know if I want to go there, but didn't you have a question in the Q&A there? Kristin?
Over on the side chat or in the Q&A?
I don't know. Answer be nice. I'll fight you.
Oh, yeah.
Question.
Yeah, because when he was talking about ghostwriting, I know who he was contending with in that thread.
Oh. We had William Rock asked a while back, too, when we were doing the history stuff about, does anyone remember Google bowling? Was it bowling, didn't it, back in the time? I don't know. There was Google bombing, Google bowling.
You had both. Google bombing was, of course, getting something listed. Google bowling, it started out, actually, as a Google term. You tried to find...
Was it George Bush for failure, or wasn't it George Bush something failure?
Was the big one? George Bush. That was bombing. Bowling was trying to find a term that didn't appear in the Google search results.
Yeah.
That's how I picked Angamura Media, because it was an Aboriginal term that you couldn't even find searching in Google what the meaning of it was.
So there's bowling, and then there's the Google Dance.
No, Google Dance is just something these days with the young kids. It is something that happens at SMX.
Oh.
That's about all they know about their history at this point. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Google Dance. I went to one of those.
It's funny. My daughter actually, I gave the T-shirts from the Google Dances that I attended to my daughter, and she wears them, and people go, "Oh, so you've been to a dance at Google?" And it's just like.
Well, I was joking with some guys in the dojo the other day. You know, we need to start a pool that basically, you know, you got to guess a year and a month, and you know, put $2 in, and the pool is based on the first time any of us ever hears Matt who from one of the younger people in the business. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. You know what I mean? Like I'm starting this pool because it's just that bad. Like again, I know we've lamented this a few times, but you know the lack of history with the industry, the young folks, is amazing. But it's just a matter of time till we hear someone say, "Oh, I remember when Matt said this back in 2010," and someone will say, "Matt who?"
Oh, I know someone who is like #2 in San Jose. San Jose or Santa Barbara. Where's the place where Gina lives? Santa Barbara? Yeah. He ranks #2 for SEO, like, and he, like, I was talking to him and he's like, Matt, and I'm like, cuts? He's just like,
so it's already happened. Wow. See, we don't even have we didn't get the pool together in time.
I win.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I remember going to an IAB event, and they were, you know, they asked me what I did, and I said search engine marketing, and they looked at me and I said, well, have you heard of Search Engine Watch? And I go, no. Have you heard of Danny Sullivan? No. And I'm just, yeah, and this was, wow, maybe 2005, when, yeah, but that industry, that's the thing, we're a very specific industry, so what Matt from an SEO is just, you've got to be kidding me at this stage. This early in the stage, someone else is already, how can you call yourself an SEO and not know who Matt Cutts is right now?
To be fair, he's 22, so he's very young.
Yeah, but what are you reading to learn?
I don't know, exactly. I don't know.
That I don't know who they are because I don't do that sort of thing. I don't run around trying to find the latest guy who's writing and all, you know, bloggers. I never bothered with that stuff, so I don't know who most of these people are. Means nothing to me.
Yeah, but you read stuff from the beginning. It wasn't like you just went, okay, here's a search engine. I'm going to create my own ways of working it. There were people's stuff that was written that you read, and then you tested and that sort of thing. So, I mean, there is, you know, to not read something about SEO that quotes Matt Cutts at some level would be pretty, you know, you haven't done a lot of homework.
No. I would.
Well, if I'm doing a trivia contest, my first question is going to be, who is the lunatic at I help you? If you don't know that one, you don't know nothing. And that's a trick answer, by the way, because Terry and Jill Whalen were there too. So.
Oh yeah.
What was his name, Terry? Shit, hold on. I can't even answer my own question. Doug Heil. Oh, yeah, there we go.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
The originator of the first SEO is dead.
Sounds like
I remember he got it blue. I know, 2006 or something. I'd written something there, and the guy calls me out of the blue. Just phones me. I'm like, hello? It's like, yeah, Doug Heil. I was like, oh, my God. Or Dr. Who's the one on Search Engine Watch? Dr. Adele? Dr. Adele? Something like that.
Oh, I remember posting stuff in 2005 on Jill's board that she took down because I was talking about what was going to be happening to Ask. And I just happened to know it because I was dealing with the Ask, and they told me and said, like, this is confidential information, don't share it. I'm going like, yeah, but you told me already. So I put it up, and she took it down. And a couple of times like that. It was like, really, Jill? Yeah, I mean, do you think that I'm going to put something up that's that outrageous without, you know, it was, yeah, I loved it dearly, but she was definitely out there.
See, it's funny, you just listed another name, though, that a lot of the newer people wouldn't even know what Jill you were talking about.
Right. Yeah, see, again, that's funny, yeah, because, you know, what, maybe 2-3 years ago, you could say Jill, like, so many people we'd know by first names, you know, you could just say Jill, and, okay, yeah, I know you're talking, Danny, okay, I know you're talking, you know, but yeah, see, I guess Jill's been gone a while now, too, and they forget you fast, I'm telling you, Dave. I walked away for 8 months and came back, and literally I had some of them young folks getting in my face, trying to tell me how's the Googles work.
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
See now, Harry, we have a problem, of course, with our name. There's nobody that can go, oh, Dave, and just know who you're talking about.
No, yeah, well, these are the Daves I know, right?
What other Dave is there? No, I'm just kidding. No, but seriously, I need to get to know you more because you're funny.
There's David Leonard, that's a local guy. There's Dave Davies and
Dave
myself. And that's why I go with the Gypsy. And Frank, you know, it was funny. Someone mentioned it the other last week or the week before that, you know, see, even Frank, I think so many of us before we knew each other's names. You know, Frank was always Aussie Webmaster. You know what I mean, you know, that's all. I didn't. It was much later down the road when all this sort of social crap came along that I realized, oh, he's got a name. Okay, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I used to get, you know, I would get a conference pass with Frank Watson on it. And then people would come up and hear the accent and go, are you Aussie Webmaster? And so I just asked them, I'd say, listen, can you put Aussie Webmaster on it instead? Because no one knows who the hell Frank Watson is.
Well, that's true, yeah. See, I'd have to do the same. I'd have to put the Gypsy or something. Yeah. And even, you know, Beanstalk over here. That's I know. Beanstalk, you know. Oh, your name's Dave. Okay. Well, we used to always go by our usernames. Everyone knew each other by their usernames, you know.
Yeah.
I'd put
that's the old bulletin board, guys.
My alias. Too many enemies. I never used my name in a conference.
I think Dave, fuck you. How long you been, Dave? You've been around since the beginning of time, well, haven't you? When did you get into this, Dave?
Yeah, I ended up working for a firm with Jim Hedger. Back 2001.
Yes.
I'd been doing affiliate marketing for a little bit before then, but so I knew a lot of the black hat stuff at that point. Yeah, a long time now. Yeah, that's 15 years. Dude, you're making me feel old.
Oh, God, dude, I used to have my 50th birthday. I don't want to talk about it.
I remember...
That's why I hang around Terry. I hang around Terry because he keeps me young.
I remember in 2003, coming from Internex, the adult conference down in Florida, to San Jose, and met the Botwell Boys. That was they had done shop.org, they did Internex, and then they were coming to their first search conference in San Jose, and we shared a cab from the airport. We were surprised that we'd been at this other conference and then saw each other heading to the same flight. It was like, so you're going over to this as well? And I said, yeah, I've been, you know, I'm one of the speakers. And we got together, and that was the beginning of Best of the Web. And those guys, unfortunately, now are not as prominent at any of the conferences, but it was a lot of fun, and I definitely made a lot of money selling links, you know, subscriptions to the directory on commission.
That's not selling links. It's totally different.
I don't know. When you buy 100 of them for the same domain in all different categories, I don't know what you want to call it.
Increasing visibility.
Yeah, there you go. It was for the click-through traffic.
Yeah, I'm merely increasing visibility for my client. It had nothing to do with links. I swear to God.
Yeah.
No, I'm honest. Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah, that's the reason why I was mentioning earlier about the whole fantasy sports. That's what Brian's doing now. He's into.
Oh, yeah?
He's creating like a fantasy sports portal, more on best practices information, like a support thing, to then go and, you know, obviously he's got some sort of affiliate things going on with the big ones, but yeah, that's his new venture. He's keeping his hand in.
Huh.
And those guys came from Ask back in the day. The two of them, Brian and Greg, both worked at Ask in, you know, the early 2000s before they bought Best of the Web in 2003, or no, 2002. So.
All right, I'm going to close down the public portion of this program now, folks. The link's still on the event page if you want to come back and hang out. There's still some people watching, so the link's on the event page. Feel free to drop into the green room, as we call it, and that's where all the good stuff comes in. We never talk about the good shit on the air. So, until next time, folks, take care.